for many years, I would describe myself as someone who ran like crazy from the feeling of a lot of things. Like if I just run and work hard enough and, help as many people and whatever it might be to just give and give and give all these years, I won't have to think and feel and do all these things. Not that necessarily there was some big ball of awfulness. It's just like, I just want to keep going and going and going.
Welcome to the Lasting Business Solutions Podcast, Indy's launchpad to sustain business success, growth, and leadership. My name's Renee Lucas. I'm your host. And today we're going to be talking about mindfulness in the workplace. This is so important and so often overlooked. Joining me today is somebody that I call a mindfulness master, Amiee Morgan. Let me tell you a little bit about Amiee. Amiee Morgan is the president and CEO of Good Aim Communications, an award-winning WBE-certified marketing communications company that she founded in 2012. Amiee is a lifelong Hoosier and a Butler University graduate. She's an avid meditator and mindfulness advocate. This is the exciting part. She is the author of the #1 Amazon new release, The Chaos Antidote. This is a fable about mindfulness and also has a companion guide, the Chaos Antidote 6-week mindfulness workbook. Amiee also is the host of the Mindfulness Academy podcast, which is celebrating its 3-year anniversary this fall. She lives in Indianapolis with her husband of over 22 years, Jeff, and their 2 children. Amiee, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
I can't wait. I've been looking forward to this. Thanks, Renee.
Oh, man. Let's start with mindfulness. What is mindfulness? How do you define that? How do you talk about that?
For me, mindfulness is about being here.
Being present.
In this moment.
Yeah.
Looking at you, paying attention to who you are and the space around me, noticing the temperature of the air, the color of your eyes, how I'm feeling in my body, the thoughts that I'm having, being here, not being, how was it on the road up here as I was driving to get to the podcast studio?
Right, distracted by your phones.
Distracted by the phones, whatever it might be. It's not worrying about what happened last night or thinking about what's going to happen the rest of the day. It's what is happening right now, because the present is all we have. And we like to pretend like we can control what happened in the past or we can be in the future and control it, but
we can't.
That's not in our power.
No. How much time, thinking about this myself, how much time do you think the average person actually lives in the present?
Oh, I think
that's
very little.
I do too.
Very, very little. And I've read some stats about it, and I could get back to you offline about that.
Yeah.
I have read some staggering stats about that.
Scary, probably.
Yes. Really shocking and very encouraging for me to continue the work that I'm doing, not only on myself as a person and a leader, but also just in the world trying to spread the message about being present, because that's where our control is.
My sister and I, we get together and we walk or we run every single week. And she was telling me when she was off for the summer, she's a teacher. So when she was off for the summer, she pulled up her phone one day and saw how many minutes she had been on her phone that day. She about cried. And she has 2 young kids. And she said, oh my gosh, what am I doing? She was on her phone for like hours that day. And she became very aware of, put the phone away. There's nothing on there, scrolling through whatever, that's more important than the time that she has with her kids in the summer. Yeah. Sometimes it's those little things that make us aware and make us think about what mindfulness really is.
Something I recently was very aware of in myself was that I was spending so much time on social media.
It's easy.
Oh my gosh. So in ways that were not ultimately beneficial to anyone.
Yeah.
And during the very tragic situation that happened at Camp Mystic.
Ooh,
I can't think about it very long or else I'm going to start sobbing.
Obsessed.
It was the same week that my daughter went to her first camp, and I was just hyper. Just so concerned about the whole week.
Yeah.
And I was just on social media and it was just filled in my feed. And I was read about all these different stories. And finally, someone who is a dear friend of mine, she just said, Amiee, you are obsessing about this, and what can you actually do to control it? And so I went out to my car as soon as I left her, and I deleted that app that was really feeding that and took some space, because I realized it was controlling me and it was keeping me from being present. What I was realizing is, instead of being with my family, I was somewhere else, just obsessing about something I couldn't control, which was exactly the opposite of mindfulness.
100%. And I think it's easy. Like, even I referenced you as a mindfulness master, right? Because I really, like, you've practiced mindfulness for a long time, and it's been a part of your life for a very long time now. And it goes to show how easy kind of the real world can kind of creep in and take over. So mindfulness is to me, it's a lot of self-discipline, and it's a lot of awareness as well, to make sure that we are present. And if we are looking through something, how is it serving us? Right. And so that's the thing, is my husband and I were affected by Hurricane Helene. And so all the flooding that's been happening, and Hurricane Aaron that just popped up, I'll find myself, and it's kind of a post-traumatic thing too, all the emotions and that. But Travis was talking to me the other day, and I was scrolling through reading about Hurricane Aaron, and I looked up and I was like, what'd you say? I didn't even hear him. And that's one of those things. It's put the phone down. How is this serving me? It's not serving me. It's creating anxiety is all it's doing. Putting it down, but it's awareness, right, on how we get there. So Amiee, let's talk a little bit about business owners. We're both business owners. We know firsthand the burden that business owners carry, the stress that they carry on a day-to-day basis, worrying about daily operations and financial pieces and people management, all of the things, right? How does mindfulness play a role for business owners? I've seen business owners handle stress in very healthy and very unhealthy ways. What's your experience been?
Ooh, let's unpack the unhealthy and the healthy. That's the part of that I really want to talk about. Yeah. What I have seen, and some of these I've experienced for myself, is when things get really overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And you can see this in my book. I talk a lot about when things have gotten very difficult, personally or professionally. There are ways that we, some folks would call it even dissociating. And so maybe it's shopping, or it's, getting caught up in maybe a social media platform, or whatever it might be. It's just distracting yourself from what it is that you really just need to sit with and feel, and deal, just face the music.
That's scary. Sitting down and just feeling is scary, right? And here's the other thing too, is so many people, I feel like when we really talk about emotions and how does this feel and everything, it's fluff, or like we shouldn't show it, or like we're, a big business owner. We don't have those emotions that everybody else has. It's this ego thing, or this front that we feel like we have to put on, or it's a fear of what other people might think of us. And so because of that, we kind of hide those and we push those away. Emotions are scary. How would you encourage somebody for the first time to sit down and feel?
Well, in my experience, for many years, I would describe myself as someone who ran like crazy from the feeling of a lot of things. Like, if I just run and work hard enough and, help as many people and whatever it might be, to just give and give and give all these years, I won't have to think and feel and do all these things. Not that necessarily there was some big ball of awfulness. It's just like, I just want to keep going and going and going. And so at a certain point, I think there's just a place of, I'm tired of running and I just need to sit down and kind of unpack what all has been going on for many, many years, and hit that point and went through mindfulness-based stress reduction training, because I wouldn't necessarily recommend everyone, especially if you have gone through something that is very triggering, or if you have certain kinds of mental health conditions, if you just sit down and sit with something huge by yourself, that may not be the best scenario. Trauma-informed mindfulness is really important to teach. So that's just something I want to say first and foremost. So perhaps for those folks, it might be taking long, calm walks, maybe getting some energy and calmness out that way, being in nature. And working with other people through that.
That's a big one. I'm a big advocate for having a therapist. I have a therapist myself, and I actually started seeing my therapist about a month ago again because I was really struggling alone. And, you know, it's interesting. I want to go back to what you said a minute ago is you would serve and give to everybody else, and that was you just dive into it. I found myself doing the same thing as I was just working and working and working, and that's how I was coping as well. But I was getting to a point where I had more and more days where I got to the end of the day and I was so depleted. And I would tell my husband, I said, I have nothing left to give to anybody today. And I would go to bed at 8:00 at night just to get, you know what I mean? Just to build up and do it again the next morning. That's also, it on the outside, it looks really healthy, but it's really not when it gets to a point where you're sacrificing yourself, or it's a way to cope instead of truly serving others or doing or working or whatever, you know.
Right. And just this morning I was listening to one of your podcast episodes where you and Travis were talking about when you went through a big growth stage, and he was giving up his mountain biking and you guys were giving up all your fun things, and how that wasn't a fun stage. And when you get to that point where you give up everything that brings you joy, it takes a while to come back.
It does. It does. You also lose the motivation to even get up and do it, because I mean, just the science of our bodies, like the less you do, the more sluggish you just kind of feel and become. And it's harder and harder and harder to just be active again and to get back into that routine. It's tough. So when we think about mindfulness, and you had mentioned in here that you are a meditator, right? Meditation is scary. One of the hardest things I've ever done was meditate for like 60 seconds. And it's, you're in your own mind. It's kind of like you said, you're in your own mind and your mind's busy. And every time I would, close my eyes and just sit there for a minute and my mind would start to wander, I felt like a failure, because I'm like, this is not what meditation is. I'm not supposed to be thinking about this. I'm supposed to be thinking about this. And so it brought about feelings of failure to me. So then I was like, well, I'm not going to meditate anymore. It's just not for me. How do you overcome that? Or how do you bring something like meditation into your life?
Oh, I feel you.
Good. I'm not alone.
Oh my goodness. No. Anybody who's known me more than about 60 seconds knows that I'm a very energetic person. I tend to speak at 100 miles an hour. I run from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And
okay, so meditation was not easy for you then either.
Oh my goodness, no. Honestly, I described it to my coach at the time when I started taking the MBSR courses in meditation. I said, I feel like I want to crawl out of my skin.
It's very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I kept feeling like, I have so much to do. I cannot believe that the world is going on without me.
Yeah.
And there is a profound act of surrender for me to stop and just
very difficult.
Just let the time tick and me do nothing about it.
Time gets very long, I feel like, too. Like that was my experience, is I felt like I had been sitting there for like 15 minutes, and I'm not kidding you, it had been 60 seconds. And I just time, I feel like my day flies by every day, right? So Amiee, the meditation piece is kind of like yin yoga for me. The first time I ever went to a yin class, I'm in these positions and I'm used to a pretty quick flow class, and I'm there for exercise and relaxation and stretching and all of it. Yin is very much like meditation, right? And so it's okay. And then you get to this point where you cross this threshold and it gets a little uncomfortable and you start to get a little fidgety, and you have to become very aware and very self-disciplined almost to stay in that pose, right? And so, Amiee, have you ever felt that? Have you had that experience? I mean, I think of you as the master, so.
Oh my goodness. Well, yikes. That title, yikes. But.
No pressure.
Yeah, none at all. I love yin yoga, and I have to say that I believe it was helpful to me in the mindfulness practice. Mindfulness was not my first language. I have to say,
that's good to know. So it didn't come naturally to you.
Oh my goodness, no. Anyone who's known me for any amount of time will know. That is just not who I am. I'm a very fast-paced person.
Sure.
I'm not somebody who's like chilling on the couch on, a Friday.
Binging Netflix.
Yeah. That's just not me. I'm always doing something. Even if I'm relaxing, it's like I'm folding towels or I'm just always doing.
Right.
And so it's just such a discipline to stop. And what I noticed when I first started in mindfulness, once I kind of just recognized, okay, I'm having this feeling, this wanting to move and to do something, I got really curious. And someone told me, get curious about the sensations. Maybe just go there. Instead of like getting into the mind trash, because there's all kinds of mind trash that can come up during meditation.
It's so true.
And then you can beat yourself up about the mind trash and becomes this
feel like a failure.
Right. And you just get into this cycle.
Yeah.
So there were two big things that helped me so much in my journey, especially at the beginning. And still, there are times when it's like I feel like I'm doing really great, and then all of a sudden something comes up, and then I'm back at square one. I mean, that's the practice. That's the practice. And so the two big things were to become curious about what was happening with my body. So when I was going through some really difficult times processing, I finally stopped and just said, I'm going to listen. Listen. And Thich Nhat Hanh is one of my favorite humans to have ever tread this earth. And he was a Buddhist monk. He passed not too awfully long ago. And he talks a lot about that when there's pain, it just wants to be heard. It's like a baby that just wants to be held. It just wants to be heard. And when there are things that want to be heard, they demand to be heard. Pain demands to be heard. And if we don't listen to it, we start getting sick, right? Our body says, well, you're not listening. I'm going to get sick. I'm going to wear down. I'm going to, there might be other things that start to manifest in you.
So many times we have symptoms that we ignore before it becomes pain. And I love that, Amiee, is like if we would just take a minute and listen to what our bodies are saying or the sensations that we're feeling, we could give it the attention it needs or give ourselves the attention it needs before we get to the pain part.
Exactly. So I would notice, for instance, when I first started meditating, I would notice things like, okay, yeah, I might feel like I want to crawl out of my skin, but I might also notice maybe I'm just feeling like some tightness, I'm feeling some tightness because I'm nervous about sitting with this uncomfortable emotion. And maybe I'm noticing, I might notice that my face is getting hot because I'm upset about something. And I'm noticing some thoughts about this conversation that keep running through my head. And the other part that really, really helped me and helped me not feel so overwhelmed was really just to imagine my thoughts running across or slowing them down as running across the sky and seeing them as clouds and as thoughts. And clouds don't really run, right? So instead of saying they glide. Instead of seeing them run across and saying, that's odd, that's an odd cloud, saying, let's slow it down and let's see the shape of it. What's going on there? Get curious about the shape of the clouds.
What does it actually look like?
Yeah. What's going on with that? And why does that cloud keep showing up again and again and again? That conversation must have really gotten to me. Maybe I need to think about that a little bit. Maybe I need to revisit that with that person and see if maybe we can work that out a little bit instead of burying it, not feeling it. And I did that a lot. Like, don't have conflict, just bury it down, just keep running, just keep giving, keep saying it's okay, when really it wasn't. And instead getting in touch with how I was feeling about different things and being honest about it and noticing where boundaries were breached and being able to verbalize that was really empowering. So I started with my personal life. And as with all things, I swung really hard left, as we do. And then I swung really hard back right. And then I think it's kind of this pendulum trying to find that place in the middle.
Right.
But I started personally, and now for my business, putting up those boundaries around, the kind of behavior that I will accept from, different people in the office and with clients and with those I interact with. And And that's important because those boundaries allow us to have healthy relationships, ones that aren't filled with, ambiguity or resentment that would build up on either side. And if I'm comfortable with saying, hey, this is a boundary, that allows other people to say, hey, this is a boundary for me.
There is so much that I'm processing and taking away and thinking about, especially boundaries. I think with business owners, it's really hard for business owners to say no sometimes, right? And so we always hear, like, you've got to learn how to say no. What's going to serve your business, your company, your team, your clients, your whatever. But if it doesn't serve, you've got to learn how to say no, right? Even starting with some boundaries like that and processing, like, why can't I say no? How can we bring this into our lives? Where can we start? You've given so many great tips on where to start, and then it's not easy for anybody.
All right. So yeah, S.A.V.E.R.S stands for silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing.
I love that. Okay. So we're going to make sure that we write that down, and we're going to get that because that is a great way to start something. And with it only being 10 minutes on each of those items, if there's something that you're uncomfortable with, you can work through it and move right on from it. You had mentioned on the exercise, I'm with you. I do about 20 minutes of exercise, but when I first started that, I was very much like, oh, if I don't have an hour, then it's a waste of my time, right? I start most of my days with 20 minutes of Pilates or yoga. And it's a very calming form of exercise for me. And so it could even be stretching. Like exercise could be stretching. So 10 minutes of stretching or something like that, just getting your body moving for the day. Thank you for recapping that, Amiee. I think that's so important and gives people time to write that down to really be able to start putting that into a practice. Now, let's circle this back around to business owners for a minute. As business owners, I would challenge you to really take some time to become aware of what your habits are, right? We've talked about habits before. Are they healthy? Are they unhealthy? How do we start this mindfulness practice? Amiee, you've given us some great tips and ideas, and I love that you shared your journey through this. Now, how do you see this when you have an owner of a business who really starts practicing mindfulness themselves, practicing gratitude? How does it trickle down into the company, and how does it affect the overall company culture when you have a culture of gratitude and mindfulness in your business?
One thing I try to do is model it. So in our business, as far as gratitude goes, we are an EOS company. We've been working with the one and only Ashley Walters. Ashley, we love you. She's been helping us awesome. Through the EOS process.
Read traction.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes. And what was the other one you said on one of your podcasts? Was it Get a Grip? I've read
the Get a Grip, yes.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And the Myth, E-Myth.
The E-Myth.
Yeah, also
so
very good.
Yes.
But in going through all of that, we start our team meetings with what has been going well. And really that drives the point home of the gratitude and tends to spark discussion around the positivity. And I love starting there.
Tell me something good. Tell me something good.
Yes, I love that. And then when we finish big projects, I always try to reflect back on all the positive things that happen. Whenever they're big, long-term projects, there are always things that go wrong, right?
Oh, always. It's never going to go perfectly. It's not.
That's just not life.
It's easy to hone in on that and to look at, like, I'm very guilty of that. I'm always looking at what went not well and how can we improve on that? How can we get better? How can we whatever? Sometimes the perception of that is like it's always negative because I'm always looking at what didn't go well rather than celebrating. Somebody challenged me on Tuesday with, what are you going to do to celebrate this? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Oh yeah.
I am the same exact way, and I have been challenging myself to celebrate and encourage.
Yeah.
And so I try to verbalize it, but also send out emails to the whole team saying person by person, this is really what I noticed that you did extremely well. And even around Thanksgiving, just reflecting on the character of the person, what I really appreciate about them as a person, because they're not just like a tool in a business. They're really a person.
Yeah.
And so I try to spend time reflecting on that and sharing that with the team, just so they know that I see them as a person.
Do you see then that they start showing bits of gratitude on their own with maybe coworkers or maybe people that they manage?
A lot of positivity.
Yeah.
I think it really you plant those seeds of gratitude and we really reap a lot of positivity in the work environment. And whenever I ask for referrals from folks when we're trying to hire, I say, I'm looking for people who are looking to contribute to a positive work environment. And a lot of that is practicing gratitude. I feel like that's step number one in that environment.
It's hard and it's depleting. I'm going to use that word again, to surround yourself with people who always have a gray cloud over their head and can't find their way out of that, right? And so sometimes I'll say to myself, if I'm in front of somebody who is a gray cloud, I'll say to myself, I don't want to be that person to somebody else. And so even if I'm having a really bad day, we all have really bad days at times, that's when it's most important to find gratitude, because I guarantee there's something that you have to be grateful for, and it immediately shifts your mindset. I go to bed on that because then I'm going to bed on something positive. I'm going to sleep on something positive. I wake up and I do gratitude in the morning as well, because I'm also starting my day with something positive. So encouraging your team to be able to do that. And it's really cool to see. And Amiee, I would agree, because that's something when Travis and I cut the business in half and started over, 10 years ago, close to it. That was one thing that we really worked on. And that's when I got a therapist for the first time, is because I was not the person that was bringing positivity in, and Travis wasn't either. And so that's something that we really worked on. And people say now, like, man, you have a really great culture. You have a really great team. And it really does come from mindfulness, gratitude, positivity, being able to find the silver lining, all of those things.
It really does. It really does. And
it's like magic.
It is.
Yeah.
And seeing people as human also remembers, in a marketing agency, there's a lot of times I've worked in marketing agencies my whole life. And really it's a lot of times people are not stopping for lunch. They're not going outside. They're not all these things because it's just go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And we have a culture of, hey, we're not going to be working till 9 o'clock at night. We really are trying to stop at the end of the workday.
Yep.
And we're getting in at reasonable times. There are times when there are pushes. We all know that.
Yep.
And we push through. And we always say every single time, this is a very short season. This is the end of it.
Yep.
Okay. Once we get to this, we're going to take some time off. Okay. So there's always that.
That has to help your team too, to know, like, yes, we're grinding right now and we're putting some really long hours in right now. We've got some deadlines that we've got to meet. It's like seasonality for us. Like June and July, it is go time. There is no stopping, right? But there's an end to it. And then here's what happens on the other side of that, right? Very, very short-lived.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's a purpose to it too. I think that's important for people to understand the why behind those, because it helps to still find the positivity and the gratitude when it's hard.
Yeah. You'll be well compensated. We're going to take some time off.
Yeah.
And we'll celebrate when it's done.
Yeah.
That's kind of the big deal.
Yeah.
And the other part of being human is recognizing, what's the office environment even look like. I spent the last year, we moved to the Fort Bend area, which is not terribly far from here.
Area,
it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's the old nurses' quarters, big, gorgeous brick building.
Yeah.
And I have worked with an interior designer. I picked a space that has windows in every single office. So there's natural light. You talked about the light. And I just feel like we're happier when we're in a place like that.
Yes.
And the other part is I always buy people standing desks. Not everybody uses it, but I always stand in a given day multiple times. My Apple Watch tells me I should, and I do, and I feel better. It's time to get moving. It's going to start ticking at me here in a second. But the other part is I even bought a walking pad, and so I'll move that up underneath and take some time. And I thought I was going to be terrible at it.
That's what I was like. I've always been worried that I would start walking sideways, and
I thought it was going to be terrible. No.
Okay,
in
that's
fact,
good to know.
some of my best thinking happens when I'm on it. I thought it was going to be the exact opposite. I thought it was going to be a complete, and it's not. So you may try it sometime, but I'm a big fan of movement, whether you need to walk around the neighborhood.
Yep.
We take a walk and talk. I'm a big fan of taking meetings walking, whether it's in person with a teammate or, put in your AirPods and talk with a client.
Right.
But move. Your body needs to move. We're not robots.
No, we're not meant to sit. All of the sitting is why so many people have back problems and shoulder problems. You always say, like, you go and get a massage or something and they're like, oh my gosh, you've got so much tension up here. I feel like they probably say that 14 times a day, right? Because it's the same for everybody who sits and work, which so many of us do.
Yeah.
Man, Amiee, thank you so much. This has been just such an enlightening, incredible, and I'm very passionate. It's funny, when we walked in here, we shifted the table a little bit because we were like, for this topic, the lights and the plants and everything else, like, it feels good. When you walked in, I'm going to go back to the very beginning, and you had said, like, be present, right? Be here. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell when you walked in? When you walked in, you started talking about those things. You were like, oh, the space is so, and you talked about those things. I love that you really do practice so much of this in just every part of your life. I love that. I'm so grateful that we met networking, and that's what I was like. I am so grateful that we met, because I just feel like we align so well, and there's so much to share with business owners. I'm going to go back to and kind of wrap it up this way. This is not fluff. This is not something that is mushy and emotional and everything like that. It's so important to our health. It's our mental health, our emotional health, our physical health, all of it. And so I love, first of all, go get this book. Go get this book and read it. I love that it's a fable too. Like, that'll be a really interesting and fun read. I love that there's a companion workbook, which I'm going to order to go with this. But, do something to start if you don't already. You have given us so many good tips, and I so appreciate you sharing that and giving us those today. Amiee, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I cannot wait to hear about how you are practicing mindfulness. Join us next time on the Lasting Business Solutions podcast.